Hello and welcome to the Binge Thinker episode 21. Yes, 21, sure, why not? My name is Jameel Raymond. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here as always. Today I have a very special guest, a multi-dimensional, very unique creative. Please welcome Fia Betina.
Hello.
Was that not?
That was fabulous. You
Yeah,
should
I
put it on
thought
a
so.
t-shirt.
Maybe that could be some of your merch.
I love that.
I'm glad to have you here, Fia.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Jamal,
Don't do that.
Jay.
Don't Jamal me on my own podcast.
Someone's in trouble.
Yes, this could be a real quick one. Who knows?
See, this was fun. You have a great day.
Yeah, was. But please, Fia,
Yes, hello.
for context, I only met you a few days ago.
Yes, you did.
Yes, and I was like, this lady has lots to talk about.
Mm.
There is lots to unpack here. So for myself and for the people at home, tell me about you. What is... Oh, that sounded like overwhelming.
Yeah, it really overwhelms me when people ask me that. I'm like, I don't know where you want me to start.
Okay, so, we have connected because you want to be part of ACN and the stuff that I'm doing creatively. Talk to me about your creative background. I know you've done, you've traveled doing a bunch of different performance styles and arts. Maybe start there.
Yeah, all right. Fair enough. I don't know, just a little bundle of ADHD energy that likes to create, I suppose. So I worked out as an early age I was kind of funny, so led with that because my brothers were doing sports and doing music, which I equally did. And I was like, well, I don't want to be like them. I want to be who I am. So I would just make people laugh and kind of went along with that. But yeah, always been a bit of a performer, shall we say. But I grew up in a very interesting environment and I grew up quite lonely, so I only had myself to kind of entertain. So I would just learn everything and do everything. So taught myself how to play guitar and then ended up going to a music school. So learned a lot more about music, and that was very much an escape. In writing, I've written my whole entire life. So that's my main love and passion. And it develops. I think when you're a creative, sort of person, you kind of dabble in everything and figure it all out. But I love making other people feel good and making other people happy, and I've kind of done that in every aspect of career or personal, secular environments in my life. So it was kind of only natural to kind of, I don't know, dabble in the comedic world, but now very much, throw myself in. But I've been lucky enough to kind of do some really cool things with that. So when I was in the UK in London, I did an improv course with Shoot From The Hip, very funny, awesome improv group in the UK. They're awesome, love them. And did lots of things with them, which was really, really fun. And in Chicago as well, which is obviously improv birthplace.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. And then where I've traveled around the world pretty much with my skiing. On my downtime I'd always I would gig with just music or with kind of improv, I suppose, but it came about per chance in the sense of I realized I couldn't do that because I would get such bad stage fright and so nervous when I would go and perform just a gig that I would forget songs and I would forget what I was doing and I would just ramble. And the MC would be laughing in the freaking sound booth and the audience would be laughing and I'd be like, and then that makes me relax. I'm like, oh, this is a thing. Yeah. Maybe I should do that more. And then it kind of evolved into that. So improv musical comedy, shall we say. And I don't know, I have a very weird brain. So I've just always, my party trick, I suppose, is that I can just make a song up on the spot. Yeah. You give me a guitar and I'll just sing your song. Yeah. Because I can just rhyme. It's weird. I don't know how.
Embrace it, and you have.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because, people always talk about things like writer's block. That doesn't seem like it's an issue for you. You feel like you've got things spewing out.
It's almost like there's too much. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
We certainly had a TMI conversation straight up before we switched on. But that's a good thing, right? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm in a similar boat as where I'm probably a little bit more measured about what I do. But I'm constantly pouring out shit all the time, hence the name of this fucking podcast, right? Is that I'm constantly thinking of ideas, concepts, bringing things to life.
I grew up in a cult, so it was very restrictive, and
Mm.
I was never ever allowed to freely express who I was and who I am, or even explore that or understand that. So now, as an adult, I've been out of that for nearly 12 years, and I want to try everything, do everything, learn everything, understand everything. Like, it's almost like a second lease of life.
Mm.
And you're like, oh, now I'm alive and now I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to do fucking all of it.
Yeah.
Because why the hell not? Like, we're only here for one time only. So make it the wildest journey that you can.
Yeah, that reminds me. Actually, I saw a quote. Was it today or yesterday? From Marcus Aurelius. I've talked about Stoicism here on this podcast. I'm a big fan of Stoicism, and he goes, "Imagine that you have died, and that all of your past is gone, and you are dead."
Nice. Sounds blissful.
Yes, but
sorry.
But then then you've awakened, and you are back. Live your life like that. So that whole second lease of life, that that rebirth, so to speak. And I think it's I would say I've certainly had a similar element of that, of going through a transformative process, living 100%. A new, different, completely different life, and it's great. I think it takes momentum to obviously explore that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will talk to you about that cult, but 12 years is a good amount of time to I guess, generate the momentum in exploration and being comfortable with yourself and understanding yourself to a degree, and what you are able to explore safely, push boundaries, understand yourself and those limits a bit as well, I would imagine.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think, I'm only about 2-ish years in, and COVID is most of that 2 years.
Yeah.
So to be on the outside world and start exploring those things in more depth, I'm probably earlier in that journey, but I have the breadth of understanding of what needs to be done, so to speak, instead of just being like, who am I? What am I going to do? It's like, no, I have an understanding of the different dimensions of who I am, and I'll certainly find more along the way.
Yeah.
But there is definitely this aspect of, okay, there is so much more to myself.
I still, like, even though, like, I left when I was 17, 18, like, even though it's been, nearly 12 years now. Yeah. That's mad. Where's my life gone? I still feel brand new in this world sometimes. Yeah. Like, it still is, like, really overwhelming. But it's like you're always learning anyway, like, and you'll never not be learning until the day that you die. And I think the more people kind of understand that and realize, then I think the happier a lot of people will be, because they'll be like, oh, it's okay, because I'm always learning. Yeah. Like, you don't need to put that pressure on yourself almost. But coming out, like, I ended up, I got into some pretty rough situations even when I left, because I was so naive to the world. So I would still say, like, I'm still fresh baby. There's still, like, I'm very much a lot more solid and secure of who I am, and done a lot of understanding and just researching and soul searching, if you can call it that, like, to really figure out who the hell Fia Betina is. But Fia Betina is who I am, and I built her and I made her. That wasn't the name I was born with. Right. It's part of. Yeah. So I was born with the name Sophia, and then Lisa, which is my mother's name. Yeah. But my mother didn't really have that much of a healthy impact. That was really diplomatically said. Yeah. I'm really proud of myself for that. Sure. She didn't have a healthy impact.
Sure. I mean, take swings if you want.
Yeah.
But, no,
she's not like she'll listen to this anyway. Yeah. I don't think she knows how to work it. But my grandmother did. Like, my grandma, like, I owe my life to my nan, and her name is Betina. And so when I was 18, I changed my middle name to Betina, because I didn't want to have Lisa. I didn't want that. Like, it was dirty to me. And I took away the so, and I added Betina, and that's how Fia Betina was, she came to be. And I think it's like that with everyone. I was talking to my friend who's trans, like, her name is the rebirth of who she is, Yeah. And I think there's so much in a name. Yeah. I love my name. I wear it around my neck, like, with pride. Also, I love the F1, and, the FIA. I literally am,
Did you get into the F1 recently? Like,
No, my whole life.
Okay.
I love the F1.
So what do you think? Because I know it's what is it? Drive to Survive. Everyone's like, do you hate the bandwagoners?
No, I haven't. I think I've seen like 2 episodes.
Right.
And I turned it off because it had Lewis Hamilton in.
Oh, okay.
And I don't really enjoy him. He's a bit of a soggy cabbage.
Hey, well, cabbage is, pretty expensive nowadays, so it's probably worth something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but soggy cabbage is smelly.
Yeah, it's basically lettuce, let's be honest.
Warm lettuce.
Yeah.
That's lost the crunch.
Yeah, or, drip it in the bottom of the bag. It's got that nice juice that's accumulating.
Oh, and that smell off lettuce smell, off greens. Ugh.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Well, speaking of things that are off, you mentioned you were part of a cult. Tell me about that. Origins.
Oh.
Yeah.
You want an hour podcast.
We might have to break this up.
We may settle in. I hope everyone's got a nice dinner and a cup of tea. So it is Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
But like a big extreme kind of like that sort of environment, religion.
Yeah. And is that NZ or is that?
No, that was, so it's kind of like in UK. So I was born in the UK.
Okay.
My mother is British. But it was, I have a lot of family in Ireland, so we would kind of go over there as well, or like just us kids would go over there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was interesting because even only the other day, like I really haven't known my almost like origin story.
Sure.
And it's been very frustrating. Like I'm very hard on my sleeve, and I can't lie, and how I feel by just looking at me or the moment I walk into a room. Like I'm very emotional, but still restrained, if that's the word. Anyway, and if I need to say something, I'll say it. And I rang my dad in like a fit of rage. I was like, I'm so sick and tired of not knowing where the fuck I come from. Because, having a very toxic mother, she lied to me my whole entire life. I didn't know who my dad was until I was 16. The man I thought was my father, who I call my father, turned out not to be my biological father. Yeah. And I thought he was,
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I have his name and he raised me, and all of a sudden it's like, lol jokes. Tea.
Did he know?
He knew.
But he kept it from you?
Everyone in my family. My older brother used to live with our biological father.
Holy
I didn't know any of
shit.
this. I spent my whole entire life was a lie. So not only was I raised in a very, very corrupt and toxic cult, I then, in my own family, it's was completely lied to and corrupted in a toxic environment.
Holy
so it's like
shit.
double whammy.
Yeah.
It was nuts. And so it's extreme Christianity, I say we, so programmed. It was, people know Jehovah's Witnesses as the people that knock on your door.
Yeah.
And they don't celebrate birthdays or Christmas because their origins are paganism.
Yeah.
Like from pagans.
Do they believe Jesus is white, like a white dude from America?
No, that's Mormonism.
Sorry.
That's the Mormons.
Yeah.
No. Still, it's the Bible, the Old and New Testament. So they take that horrendously literally. Right. So it's very, very old school, old fashioned.
So like Old Testament
with abuse.
So, like Old Testament punishment sort of shit.
Yeah. Right. Everything is a privilege and everything is punishable. And the man is the head and the woman is second because the woman came from the man. And so very hierarchy. So as a little girl, I'm the weakest of them all. I'm a nothing. And on top of that, you're taught to be no part of the world. So the world meaning everybody else that's not in the cult. And you're raised to think that they're scary. It's a scary place. And that, there's a scripture where it's when Satan came down and tempted Adam and Eve and they ate from the tree, the knowledge of good and bad, so then Eve ate the apple because obviously it was the woman that fucked it all up. And classic God. then God put Satan down onto the earth, and Satan is the ruler of this system of things, and that's why there's all the badness. So it's not God that makes the bad things, it's Satan that's making the bad things. And so you're literally like brainwashed and convinced that the outside world is being ran by this like demon, and it's really fucking scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nuts.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's horrific. It's awful. I think it's like the highest form of child abuse to raise a child in an environment like that.
Yeah.
Like you just can't. Like, so everything is squashed. So you're taught, you know, you don't want to be a part of that world. So I didn't go to school. I was taught from home.
Yeah.
And you like you're encouraged to not pursue higher education, not to watch the television, you don't vote, you don't get involved in politics, you don't understand your country's history, like you're to literally be no part of the world, because this world, it doesn't matter because it's passing away, and then the new world will come. So God's going to have an Armageddon, and he's going to kill all the bad people and then resurrect everybody who's already died, and then as witnesses we have to then preach to them to convert them into like witnesses,
The dead people.
that have been raised up from the ground. That's why, like, I was never taught to grieve, because, like, when someone dies, it's like, oh, they're in God's memory, and then Jehovah's going to resurrect them.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So, like, 15 years on, I'm finally grieving the death of my granddad, who was, like, a huge part of my life. And that only hit me 2-3 years ago. I remember the day it hit me that my granddad was dead. And it wasn't when he died, because when he died, I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And everyone around me is like, he's not in pain anymore. He's not suffering. You're going to see him again. You know, he's going to live forever with you now. Like, this is a good thing that he's died, because he wasn't in the religion. Like, he wasn't in the cult.
Right.
And so it's like, oh, his sins have been forgiven because he's dead now. So he died a non-believer. So when he gets raised up from the dead, he'll then know that what we were talking about was true, and he will be converted, and then you'll be able to live with him forever. So I wasn't like, oh, my granddad's dead, that's super sad. I was like, oh, he's safe now. So
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And he was the most important man in my life. Talking about him gets to me. Like, I loved, he's the best person in the world. Best guy ever.
Yeah, great.
You know, and I'm 3 years grieving that.
Wow.
Because he's dead now.
I think that's just sat in, would you call it? It must be some sort of repression.
Yeah. Oh, you get taught to repress everything.
Yeah.
You don't get taught or encouraged to feel or have an opinion or to be different or to question. Like, especially as women. See, it's difficult because my older brother hates it when I talk about the religion, because he's like, oh, you're blaspheming against God and you're an apostate. And I'm like, we had completely different experiences, because you are a man and I am a woman.
Yeah.
And people that I meet that have left the cult, like one of my best friends who we grew up in it together, Micah, love him. Oh, love him. Even we both know we had different experiences, because he was a man and I was a woman, or he was a boy and I was a girl.
Yeah.
You know, I was severely abused. I remember trying to tell my mother that I'd been sexually assaulted, and the toxic woman that she is, she would be like, oh, well, you must have done something to upset them.
Oof.
What did you do?
Can't even back your own gender and your own daughter?
Yeah.
Whoa.
You know.
That is
yeah, it's fucked up. Oh, yeah, horrific times.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's not fun. This isn't a fun podcast. Like, you want to talk about me, like the real me. My life is fucking horrific. Like, I'm writing a novel about it.
Sure.
Because it's awful. And the more people that I meet, though, they're like, how are you so normal? I'm like, because I'm freaking strong and I've got a very high IQ, unfortunately. So I'm probably autistic.
Why is everyone is obsessed about autism spectrum?
Oh,
and being autistic.
I know.
And it's like, why can't I just be smart and just be driven and just fucking want to get shit done? You know, everyone talks to me about, hey, mate, do you have ADHD? Are you some sort of neurodivergent? I go, no, I'm just passionately curious about things and I'm just letting my inner child be boundless and about doing things I enjoy.
Of all of the syndromes and illnesses I've potentially been diagnosed with, it's never had ADHD.
Mm.
And it's interesting because people are like, oh, you've definitely got it. You're like a bundle of energy. I'm like, yeah, but just talk to me and you'll figure out why.
Yeah.
And you'll understand. Like, I don't believe I have ADHD. I do have PTSD, very much, obviously. Yeah. I've got, immensely PTSD and OCD, which I think is a very stigmatized and misunderstood mental illness, OCD. And I've been my therapist. It's not like to have BPD, which is borderline personality disorder, but it's BPD traits. So when you look at the traits of BPD, like it's very overlapping with everything else.
Yeah.
For traits of OCD, for traits of PTSD, for traits of ADHD. Because so many fucking letters.
Yeah,
but like
acronyms.
Yeah, I love an acronym. My name is an acronym. But yeah, it's interesting, like the crossover between them. But I'm surprised sometimes how normal, quotation marks, I can be or appear. I don't feel it inside at all. But yeah, like you say, it's your past doesn't define you, your titles don't define you, what's happened to you don't define you, and it's what you take from what you've been through. Everything is a lesson. In the words of Kelly Clarkson, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it's very true. She's a wise lady, old Kel.
Yeah.
You know, and it's true because it's like I could literally sit here and be like, you know what? I was raised in a cult. I have an abusive narcissistic mother. I've been abused. I've been this. I've been that. I've been that. So I have the right to be pretty much a cunt. Sorry. I don't know if I can say it. I can say that word?
Oh, yeah. It's Australia, mate.
Oh, yeah. It's Australia, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've got the right to be, I've got the right to be a shitty human because I've had a shitty life.
Yeah.
And those people need to fucking get in the bin, mate, because you're just you're A, you're weak, and B, you're letting it win, and C, you're using that as an excuse to be a cunt.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to be a good person.
It can be sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
but like it's just why? Just be less shit. Don't have to be good, but you can be less shit.
Yes, that is true. And I think the reason why it's hard for people to be less shit or be good people is because, they are in the depths of survival mode themselves, right?
Yeah, 100%.
They're not thriving. They are surviving. I talk about thriving and surviving a lot on this pod. It's so, when they're in that egoic state, we're in that constant state of harm, and they've got that paranoia that the world is out to get them, just like you're talking about in the cult, right?
Oh, yeah.
That exists just as much in people's inner worlds and manifests itself in different ways in the outer world. You don't need God to help you define that paranoia and that, world is against me definition. But I guess no one has necessarily shown them the value or the time to give them that space to heal and give themselves space to expand and have that perspective. Maybe they haven't found necessarily the benefits or the value of being a good person to other people because they've been so downtrodden to go, well, why? No one's being nice to me. Why should I be nice to them? Right. And that's the challenge sometimes, is to make that choice to aim for better.
Yeah. No, I do. I 100% agree. And I do get that. But I don't know. I just get irritated when people use things as excuses because I just think like, I don't know, you can't.
Yeah. No,
It annoys me.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Like, it's yeah, it's like I don't know how to even put it into words without almost sounding like a cunt, but like,
say it. I mean, I think it's just,
no, I'm trying to think of what I mean. It's like when people say, oh, how are you so normal? I'm like, well, A, what is normal?
Mm-hmm.
And B, like, why would I not be?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. Like what do you think then I should be like? Like if this isn't what you think I should be like. This is people that have got to know me and understand me and my story and stuff. Like I've even had therapists say to me that like, for someone who's suffered so much, I'm very put together.
Yeah.
But then like you say, it doesn't mean I'm a neurodivergent or that, I'm autistic or anything like that. I'm just a very strong person.
Yep.
I'm very intelligent. I'm very determined. And luckily, my brain decided to fight everything that I was going through, not flight.
Yeah.
And that's just how I work, and that's just
great.
me, and that's why it's like, oh, like, how are you normal? Like, I'm not, I'm just who I am. Like, I don't need to be on a spectrum or be different. Being intelligent doesn't mean you're different. You're just intelligent, like being inquisitive, understanding, but also everything, those sorts of things are so heightened with me because they were so suppressed as a child,
Yeah.
So I'm going to be extra. I'm making up for it. I'm making up for everything that I missed out on by being extra inquisitive and extra of everything.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking allowed to.
Yeah.
So I am.
Yeah. If not me, who?
Yeah.
Why not? And that's, the same thing. I'm taking wild fucking swings. You have to, because like we said before, you only got one life.
Exactly.
And I've already lived a life in suffering, in compromise.
Yeah. I had my life taken off me.
Yeah.
From 2.5 years old.
Mm.
And excuse me, tasty. That's as far as a burp I can do.
Oh, yes. You did mention that before.
Yeah.
Very proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Anyway, what were we saying?
Talking about how smart you are, that sort of stuff.
Oh, I'm so smart, Jamal.
2 mispronunciations. This is what happens when you meet someone 3 days ago.
Smart.
Yeah.
I didn't even know your name.
Yeah, I don't use it that much, to be honest. I used to say Jay.
Jay.
Yeah.
As in Jay or just Jay?
Both. So
Nice.
my family, all my close friends, old friends call me Jay.
So if I call you Jay, does that mean that I'm like,
hey, you're part of the crew? Yeah.
I love that for
It's
me.
a badge of honor.
I love that.
Yeah,
See, the moment you call me Fee, that's when I know I'm like, oh, he's comfy. He's getting there. That's cute.
Okay. Didn't realize that was the thing. No.
Oh, yeah, because your name, nothing can ever be too short, I've noticed. Especially names.
So your partner's just like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's like, it's like a puff of air.
Yeah.
No, have you noticed it's such a tangent, but like, people just love to shorten names.
Yeah.
They shorten short names, elongate long names.
Who's elongating a long name?
Oh, maybe. Like, I noticed in Canada, it was like, so my boyfriend at the time his name was Ben, and everyone would call him like Benny.
Yeah.
Or Benny Boo. Or Benjamin. Like, they would call him his whole name. And I'm like,
I do that sometimes.
And I'm
actually,
like,
you're right.
Yeah. And I'm like, but his name's Ben. Whereas I'm Fia, and I would get called Fee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 3 letters, 2 syllables. I don't understand how you like managed to make my name even shorter, but yet Ben would be like,
we could go to 1.
Yeah, no, yes, it's true. It makes me laugh. Anyway, that's a tangent.
Yeah, that's fine. It's all part of this pod.
Ask me something else.
Well,
what else do you want to know?
Well, I wouldn't mind. How and why did you leave the cult? How did you escape?
It was a story. It was a fun time. Well, so it was dark and the clouds were rolling in. No, I'm kidding. It was dark though. Oh gosh. I see it's so complex. I'm very grateful for my grandparents because without them, I either would be dead or in it still, unfortunately.
Which is basically dead.
Which, yeah, pretty much, yeah. Worse than that. At least dead, you can just sleep and it's great. Whereas
I would love some sleep, to be honest.
How great is sleeping?
Well,
I haven't done it in a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, gonna go out on a whim and say at least 20 years.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then that is surprising that you have that much energy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's nervous. It's called nervousness.
Fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all lies. It's called drugs. Prescribed. Love that for me. Oh, gosh. I was trying to think about this on the way here, but, it's only 6 minutes, so it wasn't enough time.
Wasn't enough time to think about this. Not enough. Too many thoughts in a 6-minute period.
Too many, indeed. I'm a very naturally inquisitive person, and I love to learn. I love to ask questions. I wouldn't say that I'm argumentative at all because I'm very much non-judgmental. Like, love people's opinions, love understanding why they got to that conclusion, what makes them think like that.
Yeah.
Love that. I'm never going to be like, no, you're wrong. You believe what you want to believe, bro. Love that. If that is your vibe, live it. You know, I'm cheerleader for everyone. And so I love to learn. And obviously I feel like that's heightened because it was so squashed and suffocated like my whole entire life. And I'm very logical, very clever. I have a very, very logical side of my brain, very black and white side of my brain. Like, ironically, even though we don't share DNA, I am so much like my dad and his mum and dad, like my grandparents, like Betina, like my grandma. I'm so much like them. Like, I'm researching at the moment, like nature and nurture, because I find it such a fascinating thing, because I find me so fascinating because I am such a Twyman, but yet I don't share their DNA. It's bizarre. Like, it is bizarre. And I'm lucky in that sense because they're great people. So just things, the older I was getting, the more things just weren't making sense. I was like, everything is a contradiction. Like, you're contradicting yourself. Like, you're preaching to us that God is love, but yet I'm being abused on the daily. But yet then you're saying, oh, I'm doing this because I love you and I love God. But then God says, don't hurt, like, love thy neighbor, don't hurt, don't kill, don't rape, don't beat. But then it's also saying don't spare the rod because that will spoil the child. And I'm like, because we used to read the Bible every single day. And I'm like, the older I get, and obviously the more intelligent I was getting, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? I'm like, God, bro, like, you good, babe? Like, you want to talk about it? Like, I was like, you're going through moments. Like, it was just, and I just, oh God, sometimes it's very intense to talk about because my brain just takes me to places I don't want to be. No, it's fine. Like, I'm more than happy. I will talk about it always. I think a big one for me as well is all of my friends were getting married at like 17, 18 years old. So, because obviously you're not allowed to have sex before you're married. And you can only court after the bloom of youth, which is out of teenhood. So out of adolescence. So like 18 to 19.
Right.
And you can only date with the intent to marry. Excuse me.
Oh, it's all coming up now, huh?
It's because I'm anxious. It's like a nervous tick. So you can only date with the intent to marry, and you can't be alone with your partner. And obviously it's only opposite sex. Like, gay is not a thing. Like, that's frowned upon in the Bible. Hilariously, because I was convinced I was a lesbian at the age of 12. And then when I had my first male crush, I was like, oh, cool, I'm not, I'm fixed. And then I fell in love with a woman. So I was like, oh, no, I'm gay. And then I realized that by being bisexual or queer or pan was a thing, because I didn't know those words weren't even words to me growing up because you weren't taught about that.
Sure.
Anyway, I'm very good at digressing. Yeah, all my friends were getting married and pairing off. And I remember being sat there talking to my dad. He'd broken his ankle and I'd gone to see them because by the age of 13, I wasn't living with my parents, or I was floating around. And he'd broken his ankle and I was sat there, and remember it so clearly. I was like sat on the floor leaning against the couch, and he's there with his foot up. And I was chatting with him. And I was like, so you can't have sex before you're married. That's fine. Easy. And you can't get divorced when you're married.
So you're just locked in for life.
And but all of my friends, but everyone's getting married at like 17 or 18 because they want to have sex, because they're scared of getting, kicked out. But then from who you are as at 18 to who you are at 21, it's a completely different person. So then by the time you hit 21, you've realized actually not everything's about sex. I don't know this person. I'm super fucking miserable. Shit, we can't get divorced. So you're breeding misery. And then what do you do when you realize 3 years later that you're in a shitty marriage? You have a baby.
That'll save it.
Yeah. So then you're bringing children into a religion, into a cult, into an environment where they've got two parents that don't know themselves, don't know each other, don't understand what love is because they've never been allowed to explore that. Then trying to raise a child in a healthy environment, but also to fear God and to love him at the same time. Can't get divorced. They've got to stay together forever because, you know, the Bible condemns divorce. And I'm being sat there like, that's a whole fucking crock of shit.
Yeah.
I won't lie to you, but that sounds fucking awful. And I remember saying to my dad, I was like, well, I'm never going to get bloody married.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, yes, you are. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he's like, well, yes, you are. And I'm like, I don't want to. Well, you got to get married and you got to have kids. I was like, I don't really want to do that. That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But as a woman, you're not allowed to be independent. So you're not allowed to leave home, and you leave from your parents' home to your husband's house. Because it's not your house, it's your husband's house.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I left home. I'd gone to live with my nan. I ran away to go live with my nan because I was like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
Have a great day. I begged her to put me into school. So at the age of 14, I went back to school and I got put down a year because they thought I was going to be behind.
Yeah.
Realised I was too far ahead and I got put up a year, and I managed to do all my exams and finish high school before I think I was even 16. And then I went to college. And like,
is this all in the UK?
Yes, this is in the UK.
Yeah, right.
I was there until I was 18 and then I went to New Zealand.
Right.
Because at 16, that was when I discovered that I had different heritage.
Right.
And that I had a different father.
Wow.
That was a whole vibe.
Man, it seems like your teens was like this massive unraveling.
Yeah, and it started when I was 12, I would say, because so at 12 years old was probably when I started to start thinking. We laugh, but it's true because I remember this so vividly. I was always on my parents' passport. But we would only ever really, as a young child, go over to Ireland. And back then, you didn't need a passport to go to Ireland because, you know, where else can you go when you go to Ireland? And it's part of the UK because we'd go to Southern Ireland. So you just needed an identification. And we would go on the ferry because we'd take our car.
Yeah.
You know, big families, you know, that's what we do. So I never had a passport. I never saw a passport. And then when I was 12, I was, you know, going to get my own passport. And so on my birth certificate, and I used to always get called Sophia, but my stepdad, he named me Sophie as almost like his little mark when he, you know, became my father.
Yeah.
So I got my brothers and my mum and my dad, you know, my immediate family would all call me Sophie or Soph because that was almost like his way of making his mark on his daughter.
Yeah.
So, but in like places, you know, the doctors or whatever, it'd be Sophia. And I'd be like, oh, that's not my name. And my mother so cleverly had almost like convinced me that that was a horrific name. That was not me. Like she'd like, I know it sounds really weird, but yeah, it was like, so whenever I heard Sophia, I was like, oh no, that's not me. My name's Sophie, because she's just brainwashed into thinking that.
Yeah.
Because Sophia is Greek and my biological father's mother is Greek and it was named from them. So I'm carrying a part of his heritage, which she obviously didn't want me to do, hence why she never told me about him. So I was like, you know, almost like programmed to think that was a horrible name. So when I was 12, we were in the car park of Asda, which is like Woolies, like Coles or whatever. And because we were going to the solicitors to change my name. Yeah. Because she says to me, bear in mind, I'm 12 years old. But when I say 12 years old, this isn't like this generation 12-year-old. This is like late 90s, early 2000s, growing up in a cult, 12 years old.
So you're like like what?
6'7".
Yeah. I was
You
gonna say
know,
six, just
6
like,
or 7.
Yeah,
like
and that's the
I'm,
maturity.
yeah, I am like a child.
Yeah.
You know, and she goes to me, you're going to get your own passport. And I'm like, amazing. And she's like, would you like, you know, how everyone always calls you Sophia, would you like your name to be Sophie?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, my name is Sophie. And she's like, oh, but you know, on this document, on your passport, would you like it to say Sophie? And I'm like, fuck yeah, dope. I don't think I said any of those words at 12 years old. I was like, yeah, shaka bar.
Yeah.
I think I was like, absolutely, mother, I would love to. 100%. And she's like, right, well, then we've got to go and change your first name. I was like, sick. So we're in this car. I'm really setting the scene. We're in this car in Asda car park, and I'm getting a treat for being a good girl before we go to the solicitor's house, the solicitor's office. And she's like, and I remember she turns to me, she puts her hands on the steering wheel, she turns to me, she's like, I need to tell you something before we get to the office. And I'm like, yes, mum. She's like, so you're going to see your birth certificate when we're there, because I have to see everything that has like my name on, like legally, to then denounce it, to sign, and then, you know. And I'm like, what's a birth certificate? It's like, oh, it's, you know, what you get when you're born. When you came out of mummy's tummy, the hospital gave that to, you know, document you on this planet. I'm like, that's cool. And she's like, and it has who your mummy is and who your daddy is and what your name is.
Yeah.
And I was like, And she's like, well, when mummy was pregnant with you, she broke up with daddy and then met a very nasty man, and he decided that you were going to be his. But then I broke up with him and I got back with daddy, and then you were born. But then the very nasty man came back and decided that he wanted you for his, and he wrote his name on the birth certificate, not daddy's. So when you see it, it will have his name and not daddy's name. But your daddy's and not the nasty man, and he was wrong. He went to jail because he was a bad person, and your mummy and daddy's, and that's why you will see the name Button, not Twyman.
Right.
And I literally sat there at 7 years old, and I went,
Yeah.
I don't know what you just said, but cool. Can I get candy now? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, cool, mum, whatever. So I'm like, and I literally, that is more than less verbatim what she said. I remember it so well.
Right.
And I've quoted that. Yeah, many therapists have heard that. And then we went to the solicitor's office and we sit there. I remember the woman, I think her name was Natasha, and she was in this crazy furry dress. She was nuts. Like peroxide blonde hair, like hilarious. And I see my birth certificate and I was just like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like signed it off, blah, blah, blah. But that stayed with me. Now I realize as an adult, I wasn't changing my first name. I was changing my last name. Like she'd tricked me, because when my passport came, it still said Sophia, but it was Twyman, not Button.
Right.
And so they still didn't change my first name. And I remember it coming and I was like, Mummy, it still says Sophia, not Sophie. And she was like, oh, they've obviously got it wrong. You know, I'm a child. You can manipulate children, you know, especially a narcissist. Narcissists can manipulate anyone.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, well, there's another lie. Like, I didn't change my first name. You were changing my last name from my biological dad's to my stepdad's. I was like, but she didn't tell me the truth still. And so that then triggered thinking about everything. And what the fuck was that story? Where do I come from? What is going on? Like, who am I? Like, this is bizarre. And then just, more abuse, physical abuse from my mum, from my brother, from my dad. But my dad was very brainwashed as well. Like, you know, and we have an amazing relationship now. Like, he's the best guy. Love him to death. So grateful for him. But he was very, very manipulated and brainwashed by my mother as well. He, you know, he's had a long time of therapy to kind of deal with that relationship. And it just kind of spiraled this thing of thinking about it, I suppose. And I remember talking to a woman in our congregation, that's what they're called, and telling her that story. And then I remember when my mum found out, oh, that was a beating. Because, you know, we didn't talk about ourselves. We didn't talk about my family. My mum watched this or listened to this, like she'd disown me. She'd be like, how dare you do that? My brother is a musician in the UK. He wrote a beautiful, beautiful song about our life.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a gorgeous song. I love it. I still sing it now. And she heard it and was like, how could you say that? How could you put that? You changed those lyrics. So he had it was recorded on the album and she was like, absolutely not, blah, blah, blah. So he had to freaking change it. And I'm like, and the lyrics were like, what was it? Like, I'm from Night Avenue. Swear that I grew up. And then it was like, I remember arguments from my mum and dad. I knew they loved each other, but I thought love was meant to last. But it would drive me mad. Beautiful.
Yeah.
A lot of people can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
You remember arguments from your parents. We all do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a generation thing, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
But she was like, how could you? Because it's all about image and what it looks like. So she slowly got worse and that kind of started creeping in my brain. And then I lost a lot of very close people to me and it's, you know, ticking away. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this? And then my older brother, he got disfellowshipped. So that's basically what it's called when you're kicked out for doing something wrong.
Right.
And
is that for playing music?
No, it's for, I think they call it being a teenager. I think they call it having hormones.
Yeah.
So he drank beer and went to a nightclub and touched ladies.
Oh, jeez, the life.
He's the worst. That's like, don't do that, kids. Stay in school. I mean, don't. I mean, do whatever. Anyway. So he got disfellowshipped and you're taught to treat them like they're dead. They no longer exist. They're cut off.
Right.
So that is what it's like. Like you can't leave because if you leave, you're dead. You lose everything, like everything. Jeez. And it sounds dramatic, but like you lose everything. You do. Like you lose your family, you lose your friends, you lose your community. You more often than not have a job that gives you money within the community because you haven't gone outside into the secular world.
Yep.
So that means that you'll lose money, you'll lose your house, you lose everything. If you leave, you lose everything. You get cut off and you are taught from the platform to treat them like they are dead.
Fuck.
And my brother, he's my only biological brother. I have 4 brothers and a sister.
Mm-hmm.
He's my older brother. He's my full biological brother. Yep. We share a mum and a dad. We went through a lot of things together. He did, I did. He's truly fucked up as well. He was a big part of my life and very, very close and very like special to me. I love him dearly, even though he's a fuckhead. And I got told to act like he was dead and he no longer existed.
Wow.
And I'm like, you know, and I was 15 years old, you know, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's my brother. It's my brother. And I remember I was on my hands and knees praying to God, being like, please, 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 please let me talk to Tom. I can't, he is my brother. Like, and I remember asking him, like, I don't understand why you want me to not talk to him. Like, you know that I need him. Like why? Like, I just was like begging God. I'm like, Jehovah, please, like, give me back my brother. Like, I have nothing else. I've got nothing, like, absolutely nothing else in my life to live for. And then you've taken him and why? And it was horrific. Like, and like my parents, they didn't love each other. They haven't loved each other for years. I don't think they ever truly did love each other. They lived in separate bedrooms, which we weren't allowed to talk about because, you know, you're meant to be a strong family unit.
Mum and dad lived in sleeping bed.
They had separate beds for years. Yeah.
Right.
My parents hated each other.
Yep.
But you can't get divorced. So there's just so many contradictions and so many things. And yeah, I think it was just very much the tipping point for me. And then obviously everything came out about my biological father. And the day that Tom got disfellowshipped, my best friend also got disfellowshipped, Micah. And I couldn't believe that I'd lost kind of like my safety net. The only people that protected me, they were gone now. And I was there, like defenseless. So I moved congregations. So I went from Canterbury congregation to Sittingbourne congregation, which is about an hour up the road, like an hour away.
Yeah.
And you're like registered to a hall, like to a congregation, and you have like cards that are about you. And I got my cards moved from Canterbury to
It's like a
Sittingbourne.
permanent record or something like that?
Kind of, yeah, like your record.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're your record cards. So record cards of who I am. So it's how strong I am in the faith, like age, name, family, like all that. Like, yeah, it's like who I am. And then you register to that congregation. But that means that only that congregation's elders can discipline you.
Right.
So when I moved from Canterbury to Sittingbourne, the Sittingbourne elders, they're the only ones that have the right to disfellowship their followers.
Right.
So their congregations, like...
So because you're an outsider, they couldn't do anything to you?
So Canterbury, where like I grew up, and the congregation that I was in, they technically couldn't disfellowship me because I was registered to Sittingbourne.
Right.
So I went to Sittingbourne for a bit, and I really tried to give it a go. I was like, well, I'm going to do one last go, and I'm really going to try and, commit to the faith and be here.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't. I wasn't being true to myself. Like I wasn't living my best authentic life, and I was dying inside. And I was like, I just can't do this. And, like I'd been severely abused within the religion by certain people, but they couldn't get brought to justice because there's a scripture that they would use that there needs to be 2 witnesses in order to have a tribunion. So 2 people need to witness what has happened in order to have a hearing to decide if that person gets disciplined or if that person gets disfellowshipped. So with my brother, 2 other kids from the congregation saw my brother and Micah out in a bar and basically just grassed him up, told on him, snitched on him.
Right.
And then they went to the elders, and the elders were like, have you been doing this? We've got 2 people, 1, 2 that said. So for me, if I'm going to be like, yo, guess what? Being abused, they'll be like, well, we need 2 people to prove that.
Fuck. Is that the witness part of Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah, probably. Oh, no, it's a scripture.
Right.
It's a scripture. It's like you need, for a tribunion to be, so I can't remember, I blocked it out, but yeah, it's like
That's also, I mean, fuck,
the witnesses of 2, yeah.
It's a very dark loophole because, I mean, obviously they're not going to have a group of fucking,
Oh, sexual abuse is fucking, well, you say the word cult and you instantly know it's abuse. You're like, sex abuse. You're like, yeah, woo, I'm a lady. Horrendous. Maybe, making abuse fun since 1993. You're welcome.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, it's fucked up. But just all of that came to a head, I suppose. And then I was walking through the high street just before my 18th birthday, and my brother was busking, and I hadn't seen him in over a year. And he ran after me, and he was like, Soph. And I literally, because I'm so convinced that there's eyes everywhere. People are watching me, I don't know if you've seen The Handmaid's Tale, but like.
I was thinking nothing about The Handmaid's Tale the entire
there you
time.
go. Yeah, I know. The first time I watched it, I couldn't.
Yeah.
It's so horrifically triggering, but I love it. I can't help but watch it. Me and one of my girlfriends who also has left, we were talking about it the other day because I hit a wall of like, I'm so alone and no one understands me. So I rang Caroline. I'm like, Caroline, how do I cope? No one gets this. You get it because you were there with me and you freaking, you left. And she's just like, yeah. And I was like, I'm watching The Handmaid's Tale. And she's like, oh my God, Fia, why? I was like, because I'm a sadistic fuck. And she's just like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, I know, I can't stop. She's like, I know, I've watched it 3 times. And I was like, tell me you've got a pain kink without telling me you have a pain kink. Yeah. You're like, literally,
fuck,
like, I don't even think
mental masochism.
Oh yeah, I'm like fucking with my own self. And I'm there literally like sat till like 4 a.m. like staring at the screen, and like Jared will come downstairs to go to work. Jovan comes home from work and they're like, are you still? And I'm like, shh, crying, silent crying, shaking, like twitching, can't stop. Yeah. So under his eye, my brother's running after me in the high street, and I'm like, no.
Jesus Christ.
And he grabs me and he just hugs me.
Mm.
And I'm like, what the fuck? I haven't seen him in over a year, and it'd been drilled into me that if you see him, then you're in trouble. You're going to get disfellowshipped. You're going to get cut off.
Yeah.
And so you can't see him, can't talk to them, can't message them, can't think about them. And I'm running and I'm like, everyone see me, everyone can see me. And I'm like, just keep walking, just keep walking, just keep walking. And he runs after, and he just hugs me. And I remember just collapsing into him and just being like, and it's like I hadn't even breathed for the last 18 months.
Yeah.
And finally I was like, and he's like, Soph, hi. And I was like, hi, how are you? How you going? And he's just like, and we just kind of stood there, in the middle of the street, and this is going on, and I just burst into tears and he burst into tears, and it was dramatic, and I look back now, it's probably the most loving we've ever been to each other. Fucking prick. Joking. Love you. I don't. Well, I do. It's complex. And it was a Thursday. So a Thursday was like one of the days that we used to have meetings, like in the congregation, like in the Kingdom Hall. We called them Kingdom Hall instead of a church. Right. So it's like a service.
Sounds exhilarating.
Oh, no. Straight white man stands on a platform and, tells you that, he just tells you. Just tells you. He speaks at you. He's like,
is that
God.
Isn't that your stand-up?
Oh, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Isn't that the new Ricky Gervais special? Trans people.
Oh, Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, he's funny, but...
It's a cat. Of course I'm going to spoil it. What happens if I spoil a cat? Nothing.
Yeah. I still think he's funny, but I just think he's just like... He is very straight white man, but he's funny. He
just says what he wants to say because he's allowed.
Yeah, he's allowed to, and he doesn't give who gives a fuck?
He doesn't care. Good for him.
Mm.
This is the thing. I find it hard to bash people unless they're being dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
And unless they're just being stupid, then I'll be like, you're just dumb. But then I won't socialize with them because why would you?
Nah.
Yeah.
But
I'm like, if you say something and I'm like, that's ridiculous, but cool, good for you.
Yeah.
You have free will. You're allowed to think whatever you want to think.
Yeah. And he's doing well with it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I'd love his money.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
I did love how he would refer to. He's like, let me say I'm rich. I'm fine. I'm not suffering.
Yeah.
I'm like, and he owns it. He knows he's a straight white male.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck it. I'm a straight white male. I'm going to talk about that. But then I find so many comics get on stage and just talk about their minority.
Yeah.
Every black comic talks about, oh, I'm black. Oh, no way. Every fat comic, hey, I'm fat. No way. Every female comic, let's talk about periods. I'm like, I know. Why don't you get on the stage and, not do that?
It's hard. Everyone starts on that basis, right? I've got plenty of material about my background. I run a comedy show that's about diversity. Everyone talks about their background. And, I run a queer comedy show and everyone talks about how queer they are and they relate. So you have to have
fabulous plugs. Fabulous plugs.
Yeah. Well, they know.
No, I know. I just wanted to appreciate your plugging.
Yeah. I'm a marketer. Right? I'm in sales. That's what I do.
Do you chat for a living?
Yeah, I do. I don't shut the fuck up. But I'm being one-upped right here, I've got to say.
I warned you.
Yeah, that's good. Honestly, though, I've only got another 5 minutes left and we're going to have to part 2 this.
Oh, yeah. This is the thing. You were saying, let's talk about your cult background. I'm like, okay.
Here we go.
Let's settle in. Yeah. And that wasn't even chronologically. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I want to ask you some more stuff, but I only have maybe 5-ish minutes left. I'm like, what could I ask you about that would fit in 5 minutes?
Go on.
I'm trying to fucking figure that out now.
Oh, okay.
Well, okay. Well, I will come back to that. We'll part 2 this, right? I'll do this another time. But I guess maybe in shorter terms, I mean, okay, we talked about the whole cult, the background. Yeah, this is also about mental health, and self-actualization. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Mental health.
Yes, everyone, loves to have a mental health advocate somewhere in their titles.
I feel attacked.
Have you got it in your title?
Mm.
Which one?
My Instagram one.
Yeah. Well,
that's because it is a mental health page-esque.
Yeah, everyone's got to talk about themselves. Everyone's got mental health problems and perspectives on it. That's fine. I think, it's it. Please don't.
I licked the
butt. So this is about mental health and maturity at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so we did talk briefly before the pod about your practices. So when obviously you know that this cult has fucked you up, where do you start to unwind the damage with external help?
I still am.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't have to be done.
Where did I start? Probably the second time I tried to kill myself was probably when I realized that I needed to get some help professionally.
Yeah.
And that chatting to people isn't enough.
Yeah. Just pouring out your soul.
Funny that, isn't it?
Yeah. Especially people that aren't prepared to accept that level.
Especially people that have had very normal, lovely lives, And I'm like, hi, Fia, lovely to meet you. Guess what? Before you put your dick in me, let me tell you my life story.
Well, that happens with most dating situations, to be honest.
I mean, funny. I still ended up getting dick after that. Weird.
Yeah, because guys are just like, hey, that's fucked up, but I am full bar right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You gonna be kinky.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Far out. We got a Jesus one. Jesus girl and a horse girl. They gonna be kinky.
Fuck. Oh, yeah. They're the types.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I've noticed that in the kink community. It's like you're the neurodivergent or you've got shit to unpack. And,
Yeah.
Fuck.
Oh, dear. Yeah, anyway, back to the seriousness. Yeah, probably the second time I killed myself, unsuccessfully. Yeah, it was kind of like, and I had big old breakdown, big old crash bang, smack bang, wallop, and that was when I got diagnosed with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And there's different sectors, shall we say, of OCD that you can have those obsessive thoughts on. And mine is suicidal OCD. So every single day of my life, I fight the battle to not kill myself.
Shit.
Every day.
Fuck.
Even now, and I've had that my whole life and I never realized. And it definitely, it's been developed and has come from obviously childhood trauma, and being, growing up in a very, very, abusive way, I suppose. Because to me, it's black and white. It's, well, what's the point? When you really sit there and think about it, we're all going to die anyway. There is why not? This is fucking hard and really fucking tough. And life, if you really sit there and go, this is it's just pointless when you put it down to black and white. And I know everyone's like, oh, but it's what you make it. And, it can be so beautiful and you can find happiness. I'm like, yeah, but it's still all going to end when you die. So I know that's ridiculous to say. And I know it's hard to hear sometimes, but that's my brain, because I'm very, very good at just turning off and disassociating and not feeling, because that was how you cope when you're getting abused as a child, is you don't feel.
Yep.
So that point in my life when I was like, cool, I'm going to tap out, have a great day. And then I came out of that and I was admitted, I was in, how long was I in triage for? I think 8 weeks. I've been admitted 3 times. I've been in hospital.
Right. Here or?
Once here, once in Canada and once in the UK.
Oh, thank God for that universal healthcare.
Yeah. Gotta love old Lizzie, Commonwealth.
Yeah, no, she's almost out, but thanks for the help.
God.
Yeah.
Cheers, Liz. Happy Jubilee. Give the crown to William.
He's hurrying, just like, give me the fucking crown.
Yeah, fuck Charles. He's a cunt. Yeah, and that was kind of because when I left the cult, which we didn't even get to how I did, but anyway,
that'll be a part 2.
That would definitely be a part 2. I made up a completely different life. As a completely different person because I didn't want people to know. So I didn't talk about that. So I spent the first 4 years not talking about where I had come from. And then, after my breakdown and, I'm there in a hospital with a doctor with a psych being like, why'd you pump your belly full of Valium? And I'm like, well, why would you not when you hear this?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And then, and it comes for me, I've had therapists tell me like, I've had to start way, 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 way back at the beginning from the unpacking. And for me, the unpacking is where I even bloody come from. Who was my dad? Who was my mum? Where did I come from? Like, all of this sort of stuff. And then where I'm very inquisitive and I'm like, well, why did my parents join a cult? That's super shitty. Why would you do that? Like, I remember saying, Dad, you're clever. Why? And he's like, oh, love is blind. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Wow.
He fell for the hot blonde chick. Idiot.
They have more fun.
Oh, she's so pretty. Let's join a cult. LOL. Oh, anything for a fucking lay. I've told him this, so it's fine.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just
like literally, right?
Well, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah. And then he just got, and that's brainwashing. That's what it does to you. So.
Yeah, but which brain? It's more dick washing than anything.
Pretty much, yeah. But it's an ongoing journey forever. I unpack everything. I unpack more every single day. And I learn how to deal with my PTSD. I learn to identify my triggers. I've done a lot of trigger training and trigger therapy to understand what they are because so many can be subconscious. I've learned, there's journaling and meditation and walking and hobbies. And I mean, I don't know if I do any of that, but I'm saying like you should practice them. It's super good for your brain.
Yeah.
If writing every single day
that's good for you.
Is journaling, then I journal.
Yeah, 100%.
Then I do that. I write every day. Writing for me is the one thing that it's just 100% me.
Sure.
And it's saved me. It sounds dramatic, but if I didn't have the skill set or the ability to write, be it a poem, a story, a song, a jumble of words on a page, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
And I've been close to, but I would have lost it because it's the only safe space for me to take what's in here and put it out.
Sure.
Because, so I do that a lot. And I walk. I've got a puppy.
Yeah.
She's fucking awesome. Get a dog. Get yourself a therapy dog. Oh, no, this is to everyone out there.
Yeah.
Hello. Or 4 people.
There's more than that.
No, I know. I'm kidding. It's 12 with me and my personalities.
Double use.
Woo! Get a therapy dog. She's unreal. She's incredible. I got her in February because the last breakdown I had was in January. Love that for me.
Oh, good way to start the year.
Thank you so much. It was healthy as a Kickstarter. Ask me another question.
I think I might leave it there just because I have 10 minutes before my next appointment.
Oh, far out. I'm really sorry.
No, I really enjoy this. I wish I had more time to finish this off, but we will come back. We shall. Yeah, we'll sort something out. If it's not next week, it'll be very, very soon because I think there's plenty for the listeners at home to go.
I feel like people are going to be like, what did I just listen to?
I was thinking
Good luck editing this.
There's no edits.
Oh, my God.
There's no edits. Let it roll.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, everyone.
No, they'll be tuning in. They'll be tuning in for sure.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, whilst we live on this cliffhanger, where can the people find you to learn more about you and all your creative pursuits?
On Instagram, Fia Betina _creative. Just Fia Betina, and it will more than likely be me.
Yep.
And on TikTok, again, Fia Betina Creative.
Yep.
But
is it all one word?
Fia Betina _creative.
Yep. For both. I'll put it on
for
anyway.
everything. Yeah, it's I'm really easy to find if you know how to spell my name.
That's a big problem sometimes.
FIA space BETINA.
There you go. See, I wouldn't have put the space in.
Oh no, it is. Yeah, it's Fia space Betina.
Yes. Well, there you go, folks. Guys, you know where to find me. I've already secretly plugged all my shows during the podcast.
Such good plugging.
Aussie Comedy Network for all that good. Aussie Comedy Daily, Footscray Comedy Club, all that good stuff. You know where to find me. Boring stuff at the end. Like, share, subscribe. But we will see you very soon.
Like, comment, subscribe.
I know. I fucking hate
I'll
that
be
shit.
making a YouTube channel soon. So if you want to hear more, subscribe there.
Yeah, sure.
But no, my TikTok is like my DIY arts and crafts comedy stuff, and my Instagram is a lot more like mental health and facts and poetry, writing, all that stuff. And I love posting shit on stories of my life. Like I am a story vlogger. I'm like, oh my God, hi to like 12 people that freaking watch my story.
No, I'm sure you got more than that.
I'm like, hi guys, welcome to my vlog.
That is what social media is about, to showcase stuff to the world. I mean, I don't really care for it, but I have to do it. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you, midges, and goodbye.
I love you. Bye.